Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, guys. Welcome to today's episode of the Elite Executive Podcast. I am here in the lovely Hush Connective studio in Vic Park with somebody who's been in my circle, and a lot of people have spoke very highly of you, but somebody who I recently came to a lesson for. We've got Glenn Paul. How are you, sir?
Mate, very, very well. Thanks for having me on. I've obviously paid everybody very, very good money to talk highly on me, so it's obviously working.
With just 10 free lessons, and that plug will keep going. So,
Nice.
no, mate, like people had spoke very highly of you. I think Mo from Happiness Co. here in Vic Park had mentioned your name before, and then I seen you for the first time at the Swim for Life 2024 for men.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
For men's tour. And I said, oh, that's that guy. And I was just getting into golf around the time, so I followed you. And then, lo and behold, a year later, we got to know each other a little bit better. And it seems like we've got a similar sort of network. So I find that everything in Perth, mate, it's good people. Like, always find each other, and good people always connect each other. So it's good to have you on the podcast, mate.
I appreciate you having me on.
So tell everyone, mate, if they don't know who you are, who is Glenn Paul?
I guess I always say jack of all trades in some respects. My main hat that I wear is a golf professional and coach. I've been a professional now for 22 years. And I've covered everything in my career as a golfer, from playing to coaching, and that's now sort of where I'm at. I've been sort of down the admin path as well in amongst that, but kind of fallen into, I wouldn't say fallen into, but I've moved into coaching, and it's a space that I love and that I'm really passionate about because I get to help people and connect with people, and one of the things that I love to do is obviously build relationships. And outside of that, I'm a parent. I've got two young boys, 7 and 5, and 2 stepdaughters as well, who are 7 and 2. So keep me nice and busy with my dad hat on, and yeah, outside of that, speaking, some corporate day, charity day appearances, and yeah, been doing a little bit of delivery driving as well on the side, just to keep the cash flow going. So as I said, lots of different things, but Golf Pro would be the main one.
Yeah, nice, mate, nice. And how did you get into that, mate? Because I feel like everyone sort of has a crack at golf at some stage. Like, my dad tried to get me into it when I was teenage years. He was a big golfer locally, and we'd go out every weekend with the boys. You just know that Saturdays was his day. You wouldn't see him for 6 hours or whatever. And I got into it a little bit and was hitting the ball at least, and then just didn't touch a club until last year. So I would have been 36, so like a 20-year gap from even touching a golf club. Apart from maybe sim golf after you've had too many drinks and can't even hit the ball because you can't even see it, you know.
Exactly.
But how did you get into golf, mate, and where did you develop that passion for it? Like, how did you come to love the game so much?
Yeah, so I guess I've got photos of Dad with me basically as soon as I could walk, with a very oversized 3-wood in my hands in the backyard. So Dad played pretty much until I was born, and from that got me into it when I turned 6. I had some clubs. Conveniently, our next door neighbour was the secretary manager of a golf club in Sydney as well. So he kind of took me under his wing. Dad as well. You know, we went down to the golf course and played some golf, hit some balls on the range, and it was really from there. And I mean, look, I've played every other sport under the sun growing up, but really just loved golf. And for me, it was time to get out and play with Dad and spend some time with Dad. And yeah, so I think playing cricket and AFL and a bit of tennis and a bit of soccer, golf just grabbed me, really. And yeah, I think it was hard because growing up through primary school, I was the only kid in the school that played golf. And you get teased. It was, golf's an old person sport. Do you wear cardigans when you play? And obviously growing up through the early 90s as well, playing golf, we had to have the knee-high socks and everything as well. So golf was still a very stuffy sort of sport, but I loved it. I loved that whole process of going out and hitting balls and trying to score, and spending time outdoors. And realistically from there, kind of got to, it was the 1996 Cannon Challenge at Terry Hills Golf Club was the first professional event that I attended. And I remember walking through the gates, and it was this pristine golf course, and there's grandstands and people and professionals playing for prize money. And that gave me just another insight as to what golf could actually be. And it wasn't, for me, I think I found over time, it wasn't the money that attracted me to go, this is what I want to do as my job. It was that I got to go out and be really, really good at a sport, and people were entertained by watching me do that. The money, and it has been over my entire career, money's sort of secondary. It's being able to engage and entertain, and that's the main thing that really drives me. And just very, very lucky that it now generates an income for me as well.
Yeah, nice, mate, nice. So that was the first professional event you attended. That was as a spectator.
So spectator and marshal. So
Okay, yeah.
The club that we were at, so RAE Golf Club, was in the military barracks at Moorebank in Sydney. That's all gone now. I saw just recently after being over there, it's all warehouses now. But
right.
But yeah, a group of our members used to always go out and volunteer at the tournaments as the course marshals, so holding up the quiet signs.
Yeah.
And so it was great because not only did I get to spectate and watch, but I was also inside the ropes. So you're getting that real immersive experience of what it's like in this life of a golf pro. And yeah, I fell in love, and that was it for me. It was cricket, took a side. Every other sport was just like, no, I'm not really interested in that. Golf is just definitely what I want to do, and knuckled down and practiced. And
nice.
Yeah.
And when was the first time, Glenn, that you thought, all right, I'm actually getting good at this? Because, like, there's people who play it for 20, 30 years and maybe still don't break 100 or whatever. I think there's a stat there that 50% of golfers will never break 100. But when was the point where you were like, okay, like I am getting good enough at this that I then want to compete at amateur tournaments and start to play things a bit more?
Yeah, I actually got asked this question a few weeks ago as well, and my answer would be the same: is that I don't know if I'm still good enough. It's one of those ones. I think it doesn't matter whether you're an amateur or a professional; that you're always looking for that little bit more. And I think I played. I didn't do anything spectacular as a junior. As an amateur, I won a junior club championships at RAE Golf Club. That was really the only highlight as a junior, and as an amateur, didn't really light the world on fire. But for me, it was this, this deep internal belief and passion that I had what it would take to make it as a professional. I didn't necessarily have the results to back that up. But in saying, like, I got down to, I think I was playing off 2 by the time I applied for my traineeship, and so I came through the traineeship system with the PGA, and then kind of just rode the wheel until it got to a point where I could go and compete in the States and just really give it a crack. But yeah, I guess to answer your question, I think I'm always still looking for whether or not I'm good enough, but it's still that internal belief that drives you to keep going.
Yeah. And let's talk about that then, mate. So obviously you go through that traineeship and you then get the chance to play professionally and play in the States, like you mentioned. How does that feel, mate, going from playing locally to then, oh shit, right, I'm in the States? I imagine it's like, it's a level up, even just mentally, just knowing that you're traveling to play.
Definitely.
It's like, makes it that bit harder just to get to the tee box, never mind like actually then perform on a tour in the States then.
Yeah, so I was very, very fortunate in, it was 2002, I think, 2000, 2002, met a couple from Pinehurst. They were over so I was working at Macquarie Links at the time in Sydney. They were over for their 20th wedding anniversary, it would have been. And I've always had this obsession with Pinehurst. So Payne Stewart won the US Open there. He was a player that I idolised growing up. So for me, it was these 2 members from Pinehurst I've kind of latched on and gave them an experience, and spent a bit of time with them away from the golf course while they were in Sydney as well. Nice. So that opened up my opportunity to go to the US, and finishing or got towards the end of my traineeship with the PGA, had a few health issues, had to pull out and spend a bit of time away from golf entirely. Then had the opportunity in 2008 to go over and live with them, competed on the Tar Heel Tour. So where that sits was basically just below what is now the Corn Ferry Tour. Sure. It's one of the pay-for-play tours, so you had to pay a significant entry fee, playing for your prize money. But yeah, to go over there, and I mean, for us, where we sat directly below, we'll call it Corn Ferry now, it was Nationwide at the time, we had a lot of those players dropping down. So if they weren't playing a tournament, they had an off week, they come down and play our tournaments. We had really strong fields and really strong competitors. So it was an experience, definitely, to kind of get out there, again, having that belief that I belong out here, I can come out and compete. But then you just see these guys are on a whole other level to what you thought you were at. It puts things into perspective. You kind of go, well, okay, like there's parts of my game that is just as good, if not better, but it also highlighted for me, like, short game needed a heap of work to level up. So it just, it was a mindset shift, really, to kind of still have that belief, but also realize that, you know what, I've got to step up my game a little bit as well. But US Open qualifying was my first tournament over there at Duke University Golf Club. And again, I've been in the States for a week, full of enthusiasm, full of passion. But standing up, I still recall it. Standing up on that first tee and kind of paint a picture for your listeners. It's a par 4, dog legs to the left, so it turns around to the left. A little bit of an elevated tee box, but there's just all trees and hazard and everything long through the fairway. And I'm standing up there, not thinking about hitting it in the fairway. I'm standing up there, my knees are shaking, my hands are shaking, and the internal dialogue is, don't top it. You got a couple of hundred people around the tee box watching you as well. And managed to hit a decent shot, thankfully. The rest of the round didn't go to plan and obviously missed out. But it was tough and scary and exciting all rolled into one.
Yeah. And that, even what you said there, mate, like that was a qualifier for the US Open, but just in case anyone who's listening doesn't get golf, so the Corn Ferry, as it's called now, feeds into the PGA.
That's right.
So people qualify for the main event, if you want to call it that, via the Corn Ferry. But you had players who were challenging for potentially Pro Tour cards dropping into your league as well. So that's like, not only do you have the best golfers in your little league, but then you've got people who are dropping down.
That's right.
To play. So yeah, that must have been mentally interesting. I would say golf's a very mental game anyway, but then you've got guys you compete with every week, and then one week somebody just turns up and you're like, oh shit, they're a Corn Ferry player, like they're playing against us today. Like that's its own little battle in itself, never mind your own mental game for golf.
Yeah, definitely. I know just so many players on the PGA Tour had that with Tiger when he was in his prime. You know, there's so many players thought they were just playing for second place because Tiger's in the field, he's going to clean up, and it was very similar to us that you got a player that's playing well or playing on Corn Ferry or PGA Tour dropping down to ours. Like, well, geez, how are we going to compete against this guy for the week? So it's tough, but you've got to go back to just trusting your own game and trusting your own ability and giving it your all, and just let that outcome take care of itself if you just stay committed to the process. Mate, keep drinking your coffee, by the way, while I'm thinking of questions as we go here. But what I'm thinking, mate, is the US is obviously, like, there's a whole different level of competition, like we just spoke about. But there's also probably a big variance in the golf course. Like you think about, you're talking about Pinehurst earlier, you're thinking about the top courses in the world. A lot of them are in the States. How does golf courses, and I know Australia has a lot of the top 100 golf courses as well, but how do the general courses or the average course in America compare with Australia, do you think? Yeah, I think the way that they're designed visually is a little bit different. So what I found playing in America was there was a lot more width off the tee, or places to kind of miss it off the tee, but you still needed to be, to some degree, you still needed to be strategic, because being in a better position set up your second shot, but you could kind of hit it for most part anywhere and still have a shot forward. Where in Australia, in particular, I find a lot of our courses, bunkers are positioned in landing areas, so it really kind of creates this risk-reward mindset off the tee. But not only then, you've still got to be somewhat strategic into the greens, and a lot of those sandbelt courses in Melbourne, Mount Lawley here in Perth now as well, is sort of very sandbelty. So you've either got to lay up short and leave yourself a really long shot in, which puts pressure on the top end of your bag, or you really try and bust one down there and fly over a bunker, but it brings the bunkers into play. And you're always on. I find you're actually mentally on a lot more when you step on the tee playing here compared to in the States. And everything's a little bit more narrow here as well. So I think we've always traditionally in Australia, from a coaching perspective and a swing perspective, we've always wanted to have these picture perfect golf swings. And I mean, you look at Adam Scott, I think everybody would love to just copy and paste his golf swing everywhere. But you know, in America, it's different. They really focus a lot on scoring and, you know, short game and putting and getting up and down out of, or, you know, recovering out of bad lies. Well, doesn't really matter what your swing looks like, as long as it's functional and gets you moving forward. Then, you know, we can play golf. So there's a lot of differences, not just with the way the courses play, but the way we approach the game as well, both here and in the US.
Yeah, okay. And what was your sort of highlight of playing over there, mate? Would you say, like, was it a specific course or a specific comp, or, you know,
nothing
situation?
Yeah, I didn't really kind of get the results that I'd hoped for going over there. And you know, while I was there trying to pick up sponsors, it was a difficult task as well. I had a management company that was helping me, but I managed to get out just before the GFC hit, thankfully. So we kind of had a few red flags pop up that made me just go, look, maybe we should kind of stop what we're doing and head back. I was racking up a significant amount of debt, both over there and back home as well. Like, I think, there's a lot of things I'd love to do differently had given the opportunity again. But I think it's a grind. It's just different in terms of how you approach it. But
nice, mate. So I guess my next question is around coming to Perth, mate. So when did that happen in relation? Grew up in Sydney, went to the US. When did you land in Perth?
So I've been in Perth since 2011.
Yep.
So I think I'm just a local now. It's 12 years or 14 years before you get the passport stamped. Just 2011 moved to Perth. I'd been over here a couple of times. So 2000 and I think it's 2005 or 2006 for WA Trainee Championships. That was at Cottesloe, so that was my first experience in WA. Then was over here in 2008 for the WA PGA Championship. That was down at the Cut. And again, just made me fall in love with WA even more, and came back again in 2009. Had a sponsor invite for the WA Open through John Hughes. And then played the PGA down at Bunbury as well, back to back. And after that, for me, it was, well, like, if I was going to live anywhere, the two places I would move from out of Sydney would be either Melbourne or Perth. And conveniently, in 2011, met my, now ex-wife, but met her. She was on holidays in Sydney. Didn't believe that she was from Perth. I thought she was from Melbourne. But she was from Perth, and didn't have anything holding me down in Sydney, so loaded up the car, drove across the Nullarbor, and here we are in 2026, and life is Perth now.
Nice, mate. And coming over, and I guess not knowing many people and not having the network that you have now, everyone knows, you know, you're a golfer and you're a good golf coach. What was the sort of challenges coming over? Me, obviously you had, you know, your ex-wife as, you know, I guess your support network at the time, but what sort of job did you go into, and how did you sort of transition into that versus building the golf life and everything else?
Yeah, definitely. So my first job over here in Perth was with Golfbox.
Nice.
In at their old East Perth store, and one of the trainees who I'd travelled with a little bit from WA, he was working for Golfbox at the time, so managed to kind of put a good word in for me. And
nice.
And for me, in Sydney, I was kind of sick of working in a pro shop. Not that there's anything wrong with golf club members, but there's also a lot wrong with golf club members. I'm surprised I've got any hair, but I didn't want to, I guess, sort of pack up my life in Sydney and move to Perth and just keep doing the same thing. Still obviously wanted to play, and that's what I was still doing, full time. But I didn't want to go back to working at a golf course and just punching green fee tickets and being behind a pro shop counter. So going into Golf Box was great that I was in the golf industry, but it was retail. I was working 9 to 5. I think at the time I had like Sunday, Monday off, and I don't think I'd ever had a Sunday off my entire working career. So it was great. And I got to practice more. I'd get up early and go to Burswood Golf Course and do 2 or 3 hours of short game practice in the morning, then go into work, and then you finish and then go home and live your life. So I felt like the whole work-life balance for me shifted, but I was able to do everything that I wanted to. I could work on my game, I could still work in the industry, had a better paying job than working in a pro shop as well. And then I was with Golfbox for ages. I was one of the John Farnhams, I always call us, that leave and come back and leave and come back. It's obviously John Farnham does the same, so I'm sure he'll be back again soon too. But yeah, I've always said that for me, Golfbox as a business has never felt like a job. Being there has always felt like family, and that that if you're passionate about doing something, they back you and they encourage you to do it. And that if you leave and it doesn't work out, there's always a place for you to come back to. And so I'm eternally grateful to the guys at Golfbox for obviously giving me that opportunity when I first came over, and the other few opportunities when I've left and gone back too. But yeah, it was with them, and then I went into I was the head pro and acting GM out at Araluen for a little while. Then I ended up at Caramar Golf Course as the head teaching pro for it was about 5.5 years, and that's where I really sort of fell into the coaching side and discovered that my passion, as much as I still love playing and I would go back out and compete in a heartbeat, that's where that passion for coaching and helping people and connecting with people really kind of came from. And then it was there into Perth Golf Centre, into the simulators, and that was that transition now where for me, coaching in at X Golf in Nedlands and in a simulator, I wouldn't step foot to coach realistically back onto a grass driving range.
Yeah, okay.
Again, playing lessons, different story. We'll get out and play, but that improvement process can be so much faster and more substantial indoors as well. So as you've experienced yourself.
Yeah. That was fun. That was last month, I want to say, like sort of maybe end of November. So yeah, slightly longer than that, but it was interesting. I've been to the range a lot, just getting into it the past year, and jumping in. Like I said, I've done sim golf before, but I'm pretty sure it was like when my parents came over to Glasgow for the wedding, and we all went out and got pissed, and we're hitting it, and I could barely hit the ball at all, so I ended up having all these shots, and nobody else got to go because I just couldn't really hit it.
Yeah.
To then going in with you and seeing the setup at X Golf in Nedlands there, and the way you took things through. What I actually liked about you as well, which is something I didn't get when I did a lesson at a driving range before, was the app you use and the video analysis and everything, and how you're able to pull things up and say, look, see how you're doing this, like try changing this thing, or the couple of tips you would give, and then here's the outcome at the end. That was your first swing, here's the end. And one thing that you really got me working on, mate, was getting my hips through, because any time before it was like I could hit the ball a decent bit, but it was all arms, a little bit of rotation, but basically just trying to melt it with my arms. You really helped me get the hips in and get the rotation right, and then obviously follow through properly, which I don't think I told you this, but it definitely added a lot of distance on as well when I eventually got back to the range as well, mate. So I think that's a cool little setup personally, because like I see sims on Instagram, I guess, probably more than anything, and maybe a bit on YouTube shorts, but you see them all the time, and people obviously put them in their garages and that, but I think it adds something cool to the element of actually, seeing the distance, seeing the stats, but also then, tracking the ball, seeing where it goes on a real screen. Sometimes when I'm at the driving range, I lose my ball half the time because I try to keep my head down so I don't lift too early or whatever, So I think it's a cool setup there, mate, and it's cool what you're doing. But it's cool as well that you kind of find your passion for coaching, I guess, late in the game. Like you say, you've been a pro for 20 years, and it's only really been since you joined Caramore. What
Yep.
year was that then? When did you really start?
God, that would have been about 2015, I think it would have been.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so about 10 years now. So you're essentially halfway through your
Yep.
your golf journey at the time. So
Yeah, and I think it's going back to early on in my career and what put me off coaching. Before the days of social media and Instagram and YouTube, it's back with the dinosaurs. But these things they call magazines, Australian Golf Digest, and I think there's a couple of others. And it's the same. It's the same as social media now. That every month would have a different piece of advice, but in that one magazine, you'd have 5 different instruction articles, and they would all contradict themselves. But then the following month's magazine would contradict what was in the previous month. So
right.
I feel like golf coaching and the game of golf survives on confusion, not just for coaching, but for equipment and everything that we do. But I had this one lesson. I was there on the driving range, and asked the guy, watched a few swings, and said, all right, we're going to try this. And he's like, September 1998 Golf Digest magazine said that I need to do this. And I was like, well, okay, I get that. And I got that there. I know exactly what you're referring to, but let's try this. He'd hit a couple of balls. He's like, no, I don't know. So he'd try something else. April 2001 Golf Digest magazine said to do this. And it's like, oh, God, we're 20 minutes into an hour lesson. I've said, mate, you know what? You've clearly got all your magazines at home. I'm just going to sit here and watch you hit balls. I said, and at the end of your lesson, don't ever book in with me again. And I sat there for the next 40 minutes and just watched him hit balls. And that was probably one of the last golf lessons I think I gave, because it was so frustrating to somebody's coming to you for advice and paying for that advice, obviously, as well, because yes, they want to get better, but then they're so blocked by all the other noise that they've kind of received, obviously back then read, and now what we consume through social media, that they just didn't want to let go of their own beliefs of what they were doing to make a change. And I still see that now, both on the range and now indoors, that people have, and it's probably worse now, because you go back 10 years ago, Instagram wasn't, I don't even know if it was around 10 years ago. If it was, it wasn't.
It wasn't
really
as big, yeah.
And even TikTok. So it was really YouTube, and there was a lot of terrible YouTube videos. I think I got some pretty horrendous YouTube videos out there as well. I should probably go back and review. But yeah, I find that now, even though there's a lot of information, people are a little bit more receptive to advice and wanting to make a change. They'll still challenge it, but people are a little bit more receptive. So I find that in terms of my coaching approach, it is more about building the relationship first. So rather than just jumping in, you think for yourself that if you came in and the first thing we did was look at your swing and go, right, we're going to change this and change this and change this. It doesn't, you put your back up, you put your guard up straight away, because oh geez, I'm getting told all these things to change. Where for me, and I use camera a lot in the coaching, as you know, that it's about looking at the things that the players are doing well first. And I think as humans, we're conditioned to have a negative response to almost everything that we do. So we're in a very negative mindset. So not only are we then apprehensive to go in and get a lesson, because we're admitting that something's wrong, we're not doing something right, but you're going in thinking that the pro is going to tell you that you're doing everything wrong as well. So for me, starting that lesson by looking at the things that they're doing well and saying, well, hey, there's actually, you've got a lot of good stuff going on, why don't we work on this one thing here is going to really kind of help and amplify all the good stuff that you're going to do. It changes that mindset for the client coming in, that they're like, oh, geez, he's just told me that my swing's pretty good. They're more positive. They're more confident in what they're doing, so then they're more receptive to making some changes. And then all of a sudden, you're going to hit some shit shots. That's because we're changing patterns, but you're more receptive to and open to those changes. It's like, oh, it didn't feel great, but we look on camera and we can see the change. It just creates a more of a positive feedback loop rather than that negative feedback loop. And for me, I find that's where I get a lot of my success from with my clients, and faster success, I guess, as well to some degree, because we just change that narrative and we create a more positive learning environment for guys and girls coming in.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that's something that I definitely experienced. I think that was one of the first things you said to me. It was pretty much like, listen, the camera's on. I've looked at your swing. I'm not going to focus on the negatives here. Like, we'll pick it apart. I'm going to focus on what you're doing well, and you're swinging the golf club pretty well. You're just not getting your hips through, and we could probably change some of the angles with the golf club, and then that's what you implemented, and it looked completely different by the end of it, obviously, you know. And I think that was, I remember, like, when you said that, I was like, oh, that's like really, like, that's great, and it aligns kind of with my fitness coaching perspective. Is let's look at what you're doing now, and let's look at how we can change the things with training and nutrition and whatever, and just make them slightly better. You keep eating your wife's dinners and whatever, so that you can then just tweak things and make them a bit better, rather than saying, yeah, well, you're eating too much fat, or that dinner doesn't work, and you're always eating your wife's home cooked lasagna. Like, if you go in with that sort of a approach, rather than saying, let's just make sure you're tweaking like what you're currently doing so it's enjoyable for you, then it's completely different. I was like, okay, I get it. I can get behind this. You know, I'm going to book him a couple of lessons, no doubt.
Yeah.
But I think that's a great philosophy, mate, because, like you say, it instantly made me put my guard down and be like, okay, he says I've got a pretty good golf swing here. I'm swinging it well. It's just a couple of things that he's now going to work on me, rather than your swing shit. Like, you're not going to go anywhere with this swing or whatever. You know, it's just a completely different mindset, like you say.
Yeah, and as you said before, like, you know, the game of golf is so much more mental than it is physical and technical, and by changing our mindset around what we're doing, and I think that's, for me, a lot of my coaching is centered around mindset and well-being, rather than it being about your technical aspects of your swing or how pretty it looks. It's something that doesn't necessarily just then apply to your golf game. The strategies that we use and the exercises that we do around that resilience and that mindset goes into your family life. It goes into your work life. It changes. It doesn't just change your golf game. It starts to evolve your entire life. And I think that's why I love what I do so much, is that the wins that we have in the studio and on the lesson tee start to filter into, you know, everything else that people do through their life. And it's good, because it's not just golf now. It's a bigger picture.
Yeah. And what's the challenges, mate, with running a business? Like I said at the start, it's probably very similar to what I would have experienced before being fully online, and the PT model of, you know, session-based coaching. But for you personally, mate, in the golf industry, what do you find are the biggest challenges with business? Because that's what we talk about a lot, is, you know, people's journeys and everything else, and challenges and positives of their own industry. So what have you found has been the hard bit about coaching?
Yeah, I think the hard bit is that we're all fishing in the same pond, ultimately, and there are a lot of golf coaches out there, but at the same time, you've got across that group of golf coaches, you've got guys that work in a pro shop and really kind of supplement their income through coaching, almost for a bit of beer money, if you want to think of it like that. Then you've got you guys that are purely online, and that's great, because then it gives you access to a global pool of golfers. But then again, locally, you've got a handful here in Perth of us that just coach, and that is our main source of income. So the challenges are that, obviously, not only are you competing, very loosely competing against guys that are doing it for a bit of beer money and guys that are all in, you've got the business, or the associated business costs as that sole trader or however you're operating. You've got to market yourself and invest in marketing, where guys at a golf course, it's kind of done for you, and for the guys that are all in as well, we're paying out percentages typically to a venue as well. That eats into our profit. So it is very, very hard to obviously generate a profit out of what you're doing without working 40, 50 hours a week. But then you have that mental burnout. So it's really finding that balance of how many lessons is enough but also diversifying a little bit, which is what I've had to obviously do, and found really important that I kind of rebranded a few years ago around COVID sort of time, and realized that I've been in golf for 15 years or so at the time. I just thought that I was a golf pro and my life was sitting in a pro shop or standing on a lesson tee and giving golf lessons. But all of a sudden you look at the skills that you've learned as a player, like media skills and all those sorts of things. Well, now I can go into, when I go into speaking and some media and TV, or why don't we look at all the mindset stuff that you learn? How can we apply that not just in golf, but apply that to life? And all of a sudden now I've got all these other skills that I can use to now do charity golf days and like obviously hit shots on tees. So we do those appearances and engagements. I've done a little bit of emceeing and some speaking engagements and telling my story and the highs and the lows of my journey, not just in golf but through my personal life as well. And it creates other revenue streams, but at the end of the day, golf is still the vehicle that drives it. But yeah, coming back to coaching specifically, I think it's just a saturated market from a coaching perspective, but then you're also dealing with people that they want to get better, but not necessarily always want to listen to the advice. Makes it a little bit harder. But yeah, look, I also sit there and look at that and go, not everybody gels with everybody too, and the way that I coach and my strategies and philosophies don't necessarily gel with everybody that comes through the door. And but at the same time, if I've given them one little piece of advice that helps them a little bit, even though we may not have gelled to work together long term, if they got something out of it, well then we've both won. But you're trying to find those people that buy into the overall journey becomes the bigger challenge.
Yeah, and what do you think, Glenn, is the common themes? Some people listening to this might be like, oh, this is just interesting because it's not our usual guest in terms of, executive of a firm or whatever. But some people might play golf or they might be looking to start golf. But what do you think are the key things that you see people doing wrong then whenever they come in for that first lesson? Like, you can use me as an example or use an average of all the people you've worked with, but what do people generally do wrong that people can maybe fix if they're going out by themselves?
Yeah, I think from a mechanical standpoint, swing and a mechanical standpoint, it's that, very loosely call it over the top. I personally hate that term, but people will know what I'm talking about if they're golfers. So we end up kind of getting a bit armsy and trying to chop at the ball rather than just allowing the club to work and swing freely. So I think that we try and manipulate the golf club too much. From a mental standpoint, it is that we just overthink everything. And when we're so conscious through what we're trying to do, it actually blocks your ability to access the things that you own. So the golf swing, movement patterns, motor function, it's all a subconscious action. But when we're consciously thinking about it, we can't actually move or flow freely, which we need in the golf swing. So but I find that mental block is what ties into the mechanical or the technical faults, rather than it being a technical fault that's actually creating the mental block. So again, that's why I change that approach and we look at the things that you're doing well, because all of a sudden you start to trust a lot more what you're doing to then be able to implement some of those changes because you're more obviously receptive to it and you're not thinking about 10 other things. Where's my grip? Where's my ball position? Is my posture good? I've got to take it back along here and my left arm's got to be this and can't move my head. And and that's just a lot of the mess that's going on in people's minds. So we release that, and then all of a sudden the things that we think that we need to do and all of those mental checklists, they actually start to happen because it's all there. So it's my advice for anybody going into a golf lesson, and whether it's with me or whether it's with any other golf pro out there, there's a lot of great coaches out there, is kind of releasing the expectations of what you're going in there for, but also releasing the information that you're holding on to as well, and just kind of just trusting yourself a little bit more and going in there with a little bit more freedom and a little bit more, mental flow as well.
I mean, what do you think is the main reasons why range sessions don't translate to the course? I'll use an example. So, two examples at the same course.
Yeah.
So I went out my first time ever on the course. I was just practicing at the range from last November. My dad came out. The weekend he left, I would have played probably more of them, but I was like, oh, let's take you to the driving range at Wembley because I know they've got good food there and the big range, which I hadn't been to.
Mm-hmm.
And I just borrowed some clubs and was hitting it probably as well as he was, who, you know, is a good bit older now, but obviously is, you know, experienced and everything. I was like, oh, I'm hitting it pretty well. Like, you know, I could be all right. So then I went out probably 6 months later with one of my mates for 9 holes at Collier Park Lakes.
Mm-hmm.
I think two or three holes in, I just couldn't hit it off the tee box. Like, wasn't getting it past the ladies' tees and was going left into the bushes.
Yep.
Went back there last week, and this is after our lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one particular tee box that I remember I had a terrible time on. And I hit it okay off there. But the very first tee, which I had a good shot on previously, into the other fairway, and then trying to chip it back in off that fairway to get it back in play. Maybe rushed it a bit, but like it was terrible start to my round. So I've got 2 bad experiences. But the previous week at the range, mate, after our lesson, I was very flowy. That description you used of just trusting it.
Yep.
Mate was hitting the driver 220 meters, like the first time ever. My 3-wood was going like 175, which would have been my previous best driver. Mm-hmm. Relatively straight or within, you know, a error of margin, like a pretty tight-ish dispersion, I guess. Yep. But then I'll go out on the course, mate, and it was just terrible. I ended up having to just slow everything down. I don't know whether it's because I didn't trust myself, but I then, like everything we worked on and that smooth feeling, which led to more speed,
mm-hmm.
I had to just slow it down and just basically just knock it out with the driver just to get somewhere on the fairway, you know, or somewhere close to it.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head with saying trust, right? So the way that we practice on, again, practice, quotey marks, we beat balls on the range, and most people will go and get a bucket of 100 balls and stand there and try and smash drivers. Realistically, on a golf course, you're not going to hit 100 shots.
Mm.
Or if you do shoot 100, there's 30-odd putts in that as well. So the way that we go and practice doesn't really match what we do on the golf course. That's the first thing that I see with a lot of people. So we hit too many balls on the range. Going smaller and being a little bit more structured around our practice is always more helpful. Going into our practice with a goal or a focus area in mind also helps. So Skillus, the app that I use to coach on, is really good with that. There's a new feature on that called Shadow Pro, which is essentially an AI version of me, and takes all the information that we worked on in that lesson that you can plug your headphones in and talk to the AI as you're hitting shots, and it guides you through a practice session based on everything that we've spoken on. So fantastic new tool, which for my clients I think is going to be an absolute game changer for our practice. But then that transition onto the golf course, I liken it to hitting a white piece of rubber around a maze for 5 hours, because we kind of fixate on keeping the ball in the confines of the hole that we're playing, when realistically you can hit it anywhere on the golf course and still shoot a score. But there's also consequence attached to it. So on the driving range, those 100 balls, you hit a bad shot, you reload it with another one, and you go again, and you just kind of swing aimlessly out into the range. Where on the golf course, you hit one bad shot, that's potentially a penalty if you're playing in a competition, or it's a lost ball. Golf balls aren't cheap these days as well, especially if you're playing Pro V1s and stuff. So you put so much more pressure on yourself to hit a good shot, which brings us back to that conscious thought. And when we're thinking consciously trying to execute a mechanical motion or a technical motion, we tighten up. And when we tighten up, timing goes, sequencing goes, dispersion goes. So that's why slowing everything down helps, because you've got a little bit more control over the speed of the club, but you don't necessarily have control over your swing still. You're just allowing it to time up a little bit more. So again, this is why I like coaching indoors, that simulators, not only is it the driving range, we can play holes on there in practice mode. So, for example, you might have your nemesis tee shot might be a dogleg left. So we can find a dogleg left hole and hit as many shots as we like on there to help build your confidence in seeing that hole moving left, but you can swing with freedom. We can take all of our pre-shot routines and our mindset and our visualization and that self-belief and all the different concepts that I work on that side of the game into playing some holes indoors. Then that way, once you start to kind of do it on the sim, the only thing you're actually going outside and having to do is replicate that, but factor in slope and what does slope do to influence the flight of the ball, and what does wind do to influence the flight of the ball. And again, we can simulate that, not necessarily hitting off the flat mat, but the simulators take that into account, what the lie is that you're on and the wind direction, and the ball obviously flies relative to the lie that you're hitting from. So it becomes, indoors becomes a lot more of a holistic learning environment, where traditionally standing on a driving range with a bucket of balls, practicing or having a lesson, it becomes very, it's just hit and shoot and rake and shoot. We call them ranger ricks in the industry, that they just rake the ball over and go again. So yeah, look, for me personally, practice-wise, I hate sitting on the range hitting balls. Back when I was competing full-time and when I first started playing, we had to, because we didn't have technology. We didn't have TrackMans and flight scopes and ex-golf simulators and those sorts of things. We needed to grind it out, but that was just building feel. Simulators and launch monitors and all those, and there's so many cost-effective ones for consumers to be able to go and buy as well. You're getting objective feedback straight away on every shot. So it takes a lot of the guesswork out. So that improvement process becomes a lot more fast-tracked, and we build feel faster as well, which is ultimately what we need in golf, right?
Yeah. So that's interesting, mate. One, that you can actually do that. I never thought about that. Playing your worst shots indoors, like putting the sim on, I don't know, a dog leg, a Pebble Beach, or whatever it might be, and just hitting it off the tee if that's the issue.
Yep.
But also, mate, what you said about the AI built into the app. So we've done one lesson together. It's got all the videos in there, obviously. So what you're saying is, I could essentially go in and say, if I went to Wembley right now after this, which would be tempting now since we're talking golf for an hour, but I've got to work. But if I went to Wembley right after this, I can then go in and say, right, I've got 50 balls left on my card here, based on what Glenn's taught me. What should I be practicing on? And then essentially all I'm doing is saying, okay, that driver went 200 meters, it hooked to the left or sliced it to the right or whatever, or was a draw or fade or all these technical terms. You just give it the sort of details from the TrackMan, and you can just speak that into your headphones and do that, and it's going to say, okay, now try to do this, widen your stance and whatever, based on what you've
on what we've
cool.
Exactly what we've worked on. So I saw, and I get a transcript of that lesson that you do as well. So I had one of my other clients used it the other week, and it basically asks you, when you fire it up, it'll ask you how long you're going to be practicing for. So if you want just a short 15-minute practice session, you might be at the range for an hour. But if you want to just do a 15-minute practice session to recap the stuff that we've worked on, you'll tell it 15 minutes, and then it'll tell you to start with some feels based on the exercises that we've worked on, and then it'll ask you to hit. You can do it after one shot, you can do it after 5 shots. Asks you what it felt like. You'll tell it, it felt a little bit thin. Again, based on what we've kind of worked on, it'll tell you to make an adjustment to your grip or to your posture, your stance, whatever it might be. Hit some more, give it feedback, and then it'll start to guide you through that practice session. So such a fantastic tool. I think that not only do, especially for me with my coaching, as you've seen, we video your swings, but we also then set the camera up. So every time we're having those conversations, that's all mic'd up and being recorded as well. So you don't have to try and remember everything in the lesson. You can go back and watch those videos. The lesson file becomes your own personal YouTube channel with information specific to you. But now, not only do you have that, the AI is pulling all of that information to then create me, an AI version of me in your pocket, so that you don't practice aimlessly as well, and you can go and practice with some purpose. And I think that's where that coaching model is going a little bit now, is that hybrid sort of coaching, that you don't have to rely on seeing me in person all the time. And that's where I'm sort of transitioning a little bit with my coaching as well, is that yes, there's the in-person, but you've also got the online component, and then you've got that nice little hybrid model, but that sits between that as well, that coming to see me is like going to see the doctor for a checkup. But if we can do a lot of that, feedback, swing analysis online now with the use of Shadow Pro, that you can go and practice and get that feedback without having to have me there, it's a win-win for everybody. I think it's great.
Nice, man. And the on-course stuff as well, you said on-course lessons. So, for example, I went out and shot better than I did previously at Collier Park, but if I was like, oh, shit, that just wasn't good enough, and I've got an issue off the tee box, or an issue with a certain type of shot or whatever, how does that actually work then? If I say, Glenn, just come out on the course with me, mate, just to see what I'm doing and see where I can improve.
Yeah, so there's, I guess, two parts to that one. So I've got the simulated playing lesson as something that I offer, and that's where we kind of go in that practice mode. So if you did have particular shots, or visually, or short game, whatever it might be, we can practice those indoors first, and that's where we'll do all the technical instruction and talk, I guess, a little bit more about mindset and your approach to those shots. The other part to the playing lesson, which I call the playing experience, so we'll go out and play 9 holes. I come out and play with you as well, and that's all about watching how you execute the shots and how well you commit to shots. So it's not so much about, we don't talk about any technique, we won't drop a bunch of balls down and hit a whole heap of shots. It's an opportunity for me to see how well you commit and execute, but it's an opportunity for you to watch what I do and ask questions as well. And why did you play this shot from here? Or why were you? My driver, I hit like shit, so I'm mostly in the right trees. So you'll get to see me hit a lot of punch shots out. But it's like going, why did you play a punch shot like that? Or why didn't you go through that tiny little gap? When you've come through. So it's an opportunity for you to watch and learn. Ask a lot of questions, and I'll tell you a whole bunch of stories from my career that have applied and what have helped me, I guess, sort of shape my game, but also my mental approach. But then give you that feedback at the end and sit down and go, well, you did this, and this well, but we could probably tweak your pre-shot routine. It just kind of helps guide me for then the in-person lessons to go, okay, we need to work on your pre-shot routine, or your shot selection wasn't quite as good as it could be. And it's not about being good or bad, but it's giving you an alternative, and we can talk about those on the course, but then we can go and practice it in the simulator and go, cool, this is the shot you had. You were 180 out, and you've tried to hit a massive 4-iron when you could have hit your 5-wood, for example. And then let's try those different shots, or let's play some holes on the simulator with a couple of different strategies, and then see how that works indoors. Go and apply that back outdoors, and it'll kind of roll on from there. And I've had quite good success with that model. One of my clients in particular, a brand new golfer, started in April last year, and his swing at the time needed a lot of work, but we layered in some foundations, got him to a point where he was making some consistent contact, and then we switched it and went straight into some pre-shot routine and some course management, and how can we use what he's got to get out and play golf. Because I think a trap that so many golfers get caught in is they want to stay out the range until they think they're good enough, but will never be good enough if with that mindset to get out and play. So we kind of loaded him up with some fundamentals, and then went, right, this is how we use this on the golf course, and we layered in the strategy and the mindset to then go let him play. Started shooting some scores. Right now we can make some small tweaks to his mechanics and just layer it in over time. And from April to, I think it would have been just before, it would have been November, I think, broke 100 for the first time. Now he's consistently breaking 100. We're about to try and, it's looking like we're about to crack the 80 barrier for him as well. So it's, but it's been obviously him buying into that journey and that process, and he's an extremely committed golfer as well. But and he obviously just loves his golf too. But it just shows that by not just purely focusing on mechanics and layering in the playing side and that mental side at the right times, you can actually fast track. You can fast track your improvement and get to that destination of shooting lower scores or hitting better golf shots. You actually get there a lot quicker because it's more efficient. That process is more efficient, and obviously, the sky becomes the limit. Some people want to play golf and just hit good shots, and that's great. But some people want to lower their scores, and I think combining technical and mental coaching together, regardless of what you want, whether it's to hit better golf shots or to shoot lower scores, the process works for both of those kind of golfers.
Nice, mate, nice. Yeah, there's a lot in there, mate, and we're probably close on time. So the one thing I do want to ask is, everyone's going to have this picture in their head that, golf pro and golf coach, you're on the course all the time, mate. But as mentioned, you've got 2 kids, you've got 2 step-kids, you're running a business, and then you want to play for yourself, get out for 9 or 18 or whatever. How often do you get out on the golf course?
Nowhere near enough.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be the answer.
I think the last couple of years I've had some injuries and stuff which have also prevented me from being out on the golf course. But so I took a group I ran an event in Barnbougle back in October, it would have been, and I played while I was there. I think I played 107 holes in 3.5 days. And I'd worked out that between January and November, I'd played about the same amount of holes in that period as well. Right. So it's, I had a broken foot in amongst that for 8-10 weeks, but it was, nowhere near enough. And I try to get out, and one of the biggest things that I've had to get over is that guilt of being out on the golf course as well, especially running my own business. I always was like, well, I need to be available all the time for people to book a lesson. So I'm not going to go and play 9 holes on Thursday morning, because what if somebody wants a lesson that's, $140 or whatever it might be. So I wouldn't go out and play, because when I go out and play, I'd feel guilty and I wouldn't be in and present with my mates that I'm going out and playing with. So getting past that has been a big thing. So now at least I'll try and dedicate some time. And if I don't get a chance to get onto the golf course, I'll at least hit some shots in the simulator and play some holes in the sim once or twice a week. But getting out on the golf course itself, nowhere near enough. I'd love to every day if I could, but we'll see.
Yeah, fair, mate. Fair. Well, hopefully you get more out in 2026. And,
I'll win the Powerball and then just...
That's it, mate. That's it. That's all you need to do. Got to be in it to win it, right?
No, but definitely the goal is to get out and play a little bit more. And as I mentioned before, I think the passion is still there and the fire's still burning to compete. So, given the opportunity to free up some time and work on my game a little bit more in amongst the coaching, I think that's a great balance, and being able to go and compete and play some events and then coach, it all just ties in nicely. So Who knows? We'll see where we get to.
Nice, mate. Nice. Well, let's finish with some rapid fire, mate. Two or three more minutes. Let's go with. Let's talk about beginners. So if somebody's just starting out, what do you think are the 3 best public courses that people should go and play that are maybe a bit more forgiving but also a bit of fun?
Yeah, definitely. So Maylands, no bunkers, so especially a complete beginner, that's great. Collier Park, I think, is just a fantastic facility. 27 holes as well. They're just about to go through some renovations with the driving range. I think overall it's a fantastic facility. And then other public courses. I think for public access, but more the experience, not so much for beginners, but Joondalup is a great one.
Yeah.
But then again, public courses, I'd say Carramar and Marangaroo if you're up north too. The other sneaky one that I'm going to throw in there though is the Springs out in Armidale.
Okay.
9-hole course, some of the wildest greens you'll ever play on, but another great course for beginners, just accessible and
nice.
Good spot to get out to. So yeah.
Okay. Let's take the beginner hat out there, mate, then, and just say your favourite public access course, regardless of experience level.
For me, over here would be the Cut.
Yep.
I think I've got an attachment to the cut, having played the PGA Champs there in '08. So yeah, the cut, but also Joondalup, and again I'll give you another one, Meadow Springs. I think,
Okay.
yeah, if they'd be my top three if I'm going to play anything. We've got so many good golf courses.
Yeah,
We're so spoilt in Perth. I think for the quantity of public access courses, but also the quality, it is very, very hard to pick. But yeah, the cut would be top of my list over here.
Nice. So that was the Christmas present for my father-in-law who's out visiting.
Beautiful.
My wife said to me one night, she's like, "Do you think my dad would like if you just like took him out on the golf course? Could we do something like take him somewhere nice?" I was like, "Oh well, I won't. If we want to get that as his present, I won't. Balk at that." And I suggested the cut. I think they've got a good deal where you can get 18 holes plus the cart plus lunch for like $110.
Yeah, it's great value.
It's like it's a great course.
And the food's fantastic down there too.
Yeah,
so no, awesome.
Really good stuff. Okay, let's talk about what's in your bag, mate. I see you're rocking the Adidas stuff here. Is that what your go-to is? You think it's the best clothes for?
Yes, yeah. So I've been an ambassador with Adidas now for since 2012. So what are we, 13, 14 years
nice.
now? So they've been a great brand and supporter for me. But I also love their equipment. It's extremely comfortable. The shoes are the most comfortable shoes that I've worn. So. Adidas in my bag. I still play TaylorMade irons. I was an ambassador for them for 12 years, so I'm currently off contract, but still, with the exception of my putter, still run a full bag of TaylorMade equipment. Bettinardi putter, which is my favourite club in my bag.
Yeah, right.
So it's a custom 1-on-1 design. So a little bit an attachment to that one, and then I've actually just signed with a company called Valet out of New Zealand for golf balls. So signed with them in October, but officially kind of launched our partnership with golf ball. Having played TaylorMade balls for the last 12 years, I'd run out of golf balls, but then also open to exploring other golf balls again, and got introduced to these guys, and it's a four-piece golf ball, premium ball on par with Titleist, TaylorMade, Strixon, Callaway, and honestly, I think it's one of the best balls that I've played, especially from durability.
Mm-hmm.
Hit a lot of wedge shots around the greens that with every other ball that cut up, this thing is still really good after a round of golf and some full wedge shots. So excited to spend a full season playing their balls, and they've got a 3-piece option as well, and at an affordable price point as well. I think the equipment now is becoming so much more expensive, so to have a tour quality golf ball at a more affordable price point, and based in New Zealand, it's definitely one for people to try, and I've got some as well. If anybody wants to reach out and try some, I'm more than happy to offload.
Nice, mate. Nice. That affordability aspect would be. I think I lost 4 balls last week. 1 in the lake, three in the trees. So like that's a huge aspect to get a quality golf ball that's affordable, and whether it's the Strixon, I think the Strixon distance ones at Golf Box, as you mentioned, are quite well priced, but also then one that you're saying is on par maybe with the Titleist and the TaylorMades for a decent price is huge.
Exactly, and obviously, what I like about the company as well is that they're very much into sustainability. So they've got a whole sustainability range with tees, pitch repairers, and markers made out of recycled coffee grounds.
Right.
They've got some range balls that are using recycled cores from other golf balls. So they've their range is really, really good. But I like that sustainability aspect as well, and I think affordability and sustainability these days are two things that are extremely important. So to be partnered with a brand that obviously believes in both of those is good. So excited to work with those and those guys and play their equipment for the year too.
Nice, mate. A final question: what's one course that you haven't played anywhere in the world that's on the bucket list, either this year or in the next 5 to 10 years? Where would you like to play?
Yeah, I think for me it's St Andrews.
Okay.
That would be on I wouldn't say the top of my list, but it is probably one that I would really like to play. it was when I was in the States. I was very, very lucky to be living and based at Pinehurst. So had the opportunity to play Pinehurst number 2, stand on the 18th green where Payne Stewart hold his winning putt for the US Open. So kind of tick that one off the bucket list. But yeah, definitely St Andrews, and then I guess to tie into the back of that, if I was to play a major, it's the British Open.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, the Open Championship would be correct. That's always held over the week of or the week before my birthday. So
okay, nice.
That would be the ultimate birthday present, would be to tee it up in an Open Championship one day. So I think that's why that fire still burns, to be able to play competitively, I think.
I mean, what's the qualifying for that? Is there anything you can do locally here? Would you have to go to a qualifier in England or somewhere in the British?
Yeah, realistically, I'd have to go over there and play in a qualifier. I think it works as like a local and then up into your final qualifying. Outside of that, I think finishing top 5 or top 10 in an Australian Open. So there's different ways to go about it. I had an idea a few years ago before COVID hit to document my journey of practicing and preparing and qualifying for the
nice.
Open Championship. So again, you never know what this year brings. Might be able to get some sponsors on board and actually refocus and recommit to doing some of that.
Well, that's definitely something I would watch, mate, if you were to document all that and put it together, you know?
Yeah, between that, I got some other cool little things in the pipeline for this year with projects. So yeah, who knows? Watch this space.
Nice, mate. Well, I appreciate the time. I know golf isn't everyone's cup of tea, but it's an insight to you as a person, and the mindset to GoPro is huge. Just like very few people get the chance to do that, but also setting up a business inside your passion and everything that comes with that. And there's a few tips in there if some people do listen to me. So I think we got everything that I would probably, we said at the start, that I probably wanted to get is tips, your story, and a bit about the business side. So thanks, mate. I appreciate your time.
Not a problem at all. And I think, if there's anybody out there that's listening that's been a little bit unsure, apprehensive, or on the fence about getting into golf, for business, it's a great place to do business on the golf course as well. So, I see it in those corporate days a lot as well. They bring the token admin girl in to play golf, but it's a great game to involve all of your staff, not just from that corporate side and corporate golf days and team building, but as a place to negotiate and do business and just network and connect too. So it's not always about hitting great shots. It's a great place to network and do business.
Yeah, mate, that's exactly what I tell my wife every time I'm out. Listen, I might get invited to one of these charity events and I've got to be able to play. If not, so I need to get out and practice.
That's it. No, but appreciate having me on, mate.
Thanks, mate. Thanks. So this will be up, guys, in the next couple of weeks. And Glenn, mate, how do people get in touch if they are maybe interested in booking a lesson or just following along your journey?
Yeah, definitely. So best place to reach me is on Instagram. So @GlenPaulGolf is my Instagram handle. Otherwise, glenpaul.com.au is my website. You can find me there for lessons or appearances and corporate events.
Brilliant,
as well.
Love it. Thanks for the time, mate. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good stuff, mate. Lovely, mate. That was awesome. Stop that and name that one up. That probably went slightly longer than I anticipated, mate, so hopefully it didn't take too much of your time. But
No, not a problem at all, mate. It's been great.